I do not feel like this is what we're supposed to do.
Christine and I are at a point where I had finally decided the leader has to make a decision and just say, okay, family, I need everybody to get on board.
At the same time, I made the decision, this is not right for our family, and we should not leave. It's going to tear our family apart.
Example. We see where Christine has always been kind of a firebrand and has always stood up for herself. So I kind of find it funny that we always got to take the position, especially the YouTubers, that Christine all of a sudden found her voice. I've been saying since the start of this recap that Christine has always been a firebrand. She's always been the one out there speaking her mind, telling the truth, and for the most part, she's been the one who has almost called directly everything that was going to transpire in later episodes and later seasons. Now, as we saw in the first clip that I put on the video, Christine shouted out that this move will ruin our family. She had already said in previous episodes that the addition of Robin would ruin her family. And in many ways, it ties into the same mantra, the same song, and it loops itself in and threads itself together almost as though a perfect strand has been formed. What do I mean? If you look at what happened, by adding Robin to the family, Kody is bringing in an outside source who has encouraged the family to separate itself. Whereas for many, many years, the Brown family had always lived together under one roof and had been one unit moving forward. But as soon as Robin came in and she got involved, all of a sudden she started to splinter the family based on her experience and her cultural experience of the way her family performed or took to polygamy. In her family, as we recall, her dad, Paul Sullivan, married her mom. That's her stepdad, married her mom, and he had many wives. And they all had their own separate residence. They didn't live next to each other on the same block. They lived across town from one another. So essentially, the way Paul Sullivan had conducted his relationships, and I'll give him a rest in power because he passed away, but the way he conducted his relationships, he basically had many different homes or separate homes for his wives or women he had kids with. So basically, these were baby mama situations. So you just had women all over town. Whereas the Brown family's application of polygamy in the beginning was very different. You had 4 or 3 families who were living under the same roof and functioning as a living unit family. Which means that Janelle's son, oftentimes, Logan, would refer to Christine's kids and Meri's child as his sisters and his brothers. This is how they talked about one another because they grew up in the same house. Now, when we look at how when Robin's influence came into the family, how it changed the dynamic. When Robin first came in, she insisted that she not live under the same roof as the Brown family. She wanted to live about a block away. And that's what she did. And then as Kody was spending time with Robin, he was actually spending time not only away from the wives, but he was spending time away from the kids. And that brings in an interesting dynamic where you have Robin, who is away, again, about a block and a half away. And when Kody comes home to the Lehigh house and he's not with Robin, she doesn't get the benefit of seeing Kody that day if she stays home. And her kids don't get the benefit of seeing him that day. Whereas everyone in the Lehigh house, whether he stayed in there in one of the wives' rooms or not, all the kids had access to him. And that's a fundamental difference in how the family dynamic worked. But because Robin insisted that they live separate, when they moved to Vegas, as Christine said, it will destroy the family. She was 100% right, because it was the separation of the families that caused them to further be divided. And later, I think Kody even mentions that while they were living in Las Vegas, right when they moved to Arizona, he wanted to move back into one house because he felt that they were living separately. Now, here's an interesting point. Kody actually agreed with the sentiment of Christine when she resisted the move to Las Vegas. And because of the fact that they will be living separately, he had this to say.
Wouldn't it be cool if we could have a plig row? You know, like 4 homes on the same cul-de-sac. There is a black lining in it, though. I struggle when my kids aren't in the same home and my wives aren't in the same home. It doesn't feel as family when you're in 4 different homes as it does when you're in one home.
Now look at Robin's face as Kody describes the ideal function for his family. Of course, Meri agrees. Robin, she looks like she just bit into a grapefruit. The kid caught with their hand in a cookie jar glance. Thus begins the legacy of Sourpuss, aka Madam Eyebrow. When you are in a situation like Christine, you have to listen to your voice. You know there's something that will rub you wrong. It's an instinctual thing, a feeling you get. You have to recognize the feeling that you have, acknowledge it, and then address it. Don't just dismiss it. Kody, she kind of fell into the trap when she was dealing with Kody. Christine did. When she was dealing with Kody, she fell into the trap of him telling her that she was crazy. Oh, you feel this way because you're crazy. You feel this way because you're jealous. And there's a part of me that thinks that Christine started to dismiss those feelings and went along with the situation because Kody had said what he said the way he said it. Oh, you're just being jealous. Oh, maybe I am being jealous. Maybe I am being unreasonable. Maybe I am acting the way Meri and Janelle acted when I first came into the family, and I don't want to be that way. So I feel bad and embarrassed about how I feel. So therefore, there must be something wrong with it. But in truth and in honesty, she actually had justification, especially as we see it, as we know now, she had complete justification for the feelings that she had. Christine's not a dumb woman, so she understood what was happening. And she just didn't, act accordingly. Now, here's the thing. When you have this type of thing going on, you have decisions to make. As Kody said in the beginning, I decided that this is what we were going to do. And as Christine said, well, I decided. And that's where it came from. Like, she had to make a decision. And I understand why she made the decision that she made, because she wanted to keep her family together. But as part of that and being part of that unit, you have to recognize that you must have your voice heard. When you say things and your perspective is given, your perspective has to be received. It has to be acknowledged. It has to be taken into account. Because even though Kody may call himself the leader, and maybe the wives said that we gave you the leadership position, you're the leader. Even if that's the case, as the leader, you have to recognize that in order for you to be effective, you have to see all perspectives. In order for you to be effective, you have to see others' perspective. Why? Because they have vision in places where you might not be able to see. They may see your blind spots, places where you didn't recognize. In the previous video that I released yesterday, I talked about how Robin had came forward and she basically told them from the start that she was in it because she wanted to provide the best life possible for her kids. And this was a means and method for her to do that. Christine, Meri, and at points Janelle all noticed that this was the case. And they were trying to tell Kody, but because Robin sat squarely in his blind spot, he didn't recognize that they were actually telling him something that he couldn't see. And because of his arrogance and ego, he refused to recognize that there is a possibility that this person that he cares so much about is sitting in his blind spot. And this is why I say, like, you have to, when you pick a partner, you want to not just pick somebody that you find attractive and hot and sexy and, maybe can change your life, but you also want to pick somebody whose opinion you trust and opinion you value. Because when you have that trust and you have that value for that person and their perspective and their opinion, they become a partner. And as you move together in that life goal and that life quest to try to make your lives better and more complete, then it's easier to do that when you're doing it with a partner. If you protect the people behind you, but you respect the people next to you. And if you can't respect your wife and you continually want to put her behind you, or more to the point in the Brown family, you keep trying to put her underneath you so you can stand on her shoulders, then you're never going to move forward and you're never going to get the things out of life that you actually want. That's my take. I'm James. This has been my take on reality, and I'm out.